welcome to this episode of Quake It Up. Well, we're nearly at the end of 2023, and what I thought we'd do is to look at the year of 2023 from a Quaker perspective and look at what were maybe the highs and lows of Quakerness and the Quaker world throughout this year. So I suppose one of the first things that happened over this year was the run-up to the coronation of Charles III, and finding out that Quakers were this privileged body. Check out my video on that. And how we reacted to that as a community, I thought was really interesting. I think the dialogue around our connection with the monarchy was really interesting. Instead of looking at it as something that has always been and will always be, kind of looking at, well, what is the Quaker take on the monarchy? Should Quakers invest in that? Should they be proponents of monarchy? And if not, what would that mean? And if so, why? And I think that's great, because I don't think it's something that, as I said, don't think that's something that we necessarily considered before as a community, for the fact that Queen Elizabeth obviously had been on the throne for so long. It really put to the fore the idea of that question, at least. I think also this year, we've been really blessed with loads of really good quality publishings this year. We had Quaker Shaped Christianity, which was towards the end of last year, but obviously we had Mark Russ on the channel back in May, I think, sometime as well. And we had The Living Fountain with Ben Wood, who also came on and talked about it. But so many other books as well. I've got loads of, basically Quaker Quicks have just done an amazing job this year. So there's A Simple Faith, which came out this year, and possibly most exciting for me, the one most recently done has been on Rufus Jones and looking at his life. I will be doing a video on that when I've read it and digested it thoroughly. So I just think it's just been really exciting, the books that have been coming out, looking at what the Quaker story should be, what a Quaker flavoured life should look like. And a lot of things that I'm getting from this is trying to work out what a Quaker community should look like, especially when in Britain, at least, we can be quite divergent in what we believe and what we think Quakerness and Quakerism is, and how that can all fit together in different ways of doing that. And people have been looking back at how Quakerism has worked in the past and see what we can take and what will be useful for that, and also going forward, where the Quaker testimonies might lead us to develop a new Quaker story. Another really good thing that I think has happened this year for the Quaker world has been the launch of the Quaker Podcast. I think it's been an absolute. I mean, I've been retweeting all their things and I've been following them avidly since they started back in May or something like that. It's been phenomenal, and I'm glad it's had such success as well in creating a community, but also bringing new people in. And they've just been. It's been so good for so many reasons. I've been waxing lyrical about it to everyone who I can. I think they've got the music's really good. The topics they discuss are really interesting. They have a nice flow of different types of content. They've looked at history, they've looked at vocal ministry, they've looked at Quaker testimonies and how Quakers live their lives. And I've just been I really thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to season 2 coming out, hopefully, I'm guessing next year. And they're not they are a non-profit, so they are looking all the time for people to help fund them. And so I would really, really urge people, if you're in the position to do that, and you have been listening to the Quaker Podcast, or if you haven't, listen to it first. And then if you are in the position to support them in any way, then please do, because it's a wonderful podcast, and I'm so glad that has been enriching our Quaker lives this year. This year also saw in Britain the inaugural Quaker Truth and Integrity Award. So it's made by the Quaker Truth and Integrity Group, and which I think is also relatively new. I think it was only maybe during COVID that started. And they're giving awards out for people who are standing up for truth and integrity, as their name implies. And I think that's really good, because obviously it's a very important Quaker testimony. It's certainly one that I'm trying to live more by. And we live in a world where truth can so easily be manipulated in so many different ways. If you're on social media, any form, if you listen to political discourse, the way that the truth is manipulated is blatant and apparent, hopefully, to many, many people. So I think this award is really good it's Quaker, and also that it's praising those people who are looking out for the truth. So the inaugural winner of this prize was Carol Cadwalader, who British people, I'm sure, are certainly aware of. Certainly, if you read The Guardian or The Observer, and she's an investigative journalist. She's probably most famous for two things. First thing, and probably most mainly, is she helped uncover the Facebook and Cambridge Analytica scandal. And the second thing was looking at the financing of Vote Leave and that whole side of things. And she's been through quite a lot. I think Aaron Banks, who I think was one person that she was particularly investigating, has sued her, tried suing her, and all sorts. And so she's gone through a lot, and obviously all the abuse that people like her do receive on a daily basis on social media as well. So I think we should be upholding these people who are doing their best to uphold truth. And so I'm really glad that this is an award that Quakers are doing to show that and to highlight that and the importance of that in today's society. There was also World Quaker Day, which I know I did a couple of videos on, but I think had a really cool take this year. I like the fact that they were focusing on Ubuntu. I'm I'm fascinated by words and their meaning and how they can be used and the effect that they can have on religious communities. And I think that was a really cool word to really explore. And I've done a video on that as well, so please have a look. And just looking at spiritual words as well, I think, are words that exist in other languages that don't exist in our own, and how that can help inform not just our own spiritual lives, but the spiritual lives of others, and how and why they do things the way they do. I don't know. I also felt there was a real energy around this year's World Quaker Day, and I really hope that going into next year that will continue, because I think it's a really nice thing to do. There was a T-shirt involved as well, so sucker for a T-shirt. 2023 was also the launch of the Quaker Survey, sort of like the census of Quakers. So, I think the last one was done in 2013 or something, and I don't think they're necessarily every 10 years, but I think it's just so happens to be 10 years this time. Or maybe it's going to always be 10 years, who knows? But it's going to be really interesting what the results of that survey shows, because just to see where Quakers are. The questions were quite interesting, looking at, well, what does identifying as a Quaker mean to you? You get loads of demographics and things like that. So I think you'll be able to see where the state of British Quakerism is today. I think there will obviously be the doom and gloomers who will look at that and see, oh, well, there are fewer Quakers maybe than in 2013, or that some may argue that fewer and fewer Quakers are identifying as Christian. And I think these are all true, and I think these aren't things to worry about. I mean, if you look at any religious denomination, they're in the similar boat. Obviously, we're smaller, so these percentage changes will affect us more. And I know that certain Christ-centered friends will be really perhaps unhappy at the extent to which the Christian element of Quakerism, in terms of the wider society, is maybe going. And but I think but those are questions and things to be discussed when we see them, and maybe talking about why that's the case and where we go from here. Because I think I'm very interested to see where Quakerism is going to go into 2024 and beyond, and having a look at that, seeing what the results of that will be, I think would be really helpful in helping us to inform us as to how we can do that. I suppose also, I mean, it's been a really tough year to be a Quaker as well, with everything that is going on in the world at the moment. I think being a Quaker and being invested in peace, that's been really tested this year, probably even more so than last year, I would argue. I mean, the war between Russia and Ukraine continues and is losing its, I think, certainly its salience in the British media, and I worry at the effect that will have. They talk about war fatigue, and that are the British media just losing interest, and what will that mean? Will that mean that support for Ukraine will dwindle, and what will that lead to? I think it's a real concern. and I can say, I'm holding them in the light, and I help where I can, but it's a very difficult position to be in, and what can we actually do? There is a lot of advice on the Quakers in Britain website as to things we can do. So please do have a look at that. I'll put a link to that. And this is similar with the conflict in Israel Palestine as well. That's been I'd say so difficult, just because of the baggage that conflict comes with in terms of history, politics, religion. It just comes in such a horrible, sad way that I don't even know what I think about it, apart from that I want it to stop. And again, there's lots of advice on there for on the Quakers in Britain website as to things you can do to support and to uphold and things. So I think why this conflict is also really hurtful for Friends in particular is because of the Ramallah Friends School, which is a Quaker school in Palestine. And I mean, it shouldn't matter anyway, but I mean, I think it just really hits home when something which Quakers in Britain have a really personal investment in, and that's put under threat. It's just a really difficult situation, and so please do have a look. I'm not going to say that I have advice because I've been struggling with it, but have a look at what Quakers in Britain have said, because they've got some really good things and ways of how you can help or how you can work through that. And I suppose probably another sad thing from like the lows of 2023 was probably the closure of Woodbrook. So for those of you who don't know, Woodbrook is the centre for Quaker learning and adult learning, and so so it was a place where you could go for retreats, but also for events and courses on Quakerism and things like that. And I've never personally gone because it's always been too far away, and I obviously regret that, but that's just how it was for me. But I know many people who have gone, and I would have just, I know I would have loved it. And what I've heard from people is say that that's how they got to know loads of other Quakers from around Britain, and how important it was for them. The reasons for its closure is obviously financial. The fact is that it was really hit by the pandemic. The rise of online learning obviously means that people don't need to all come together, which is great. They are doing a lot of online learning now. The necessity of having a place isn't the same anymore, and it just never really picked up after the pandemic. And it's the building is beautiful. I mean, if you have a look at Woodbrook online, you'll see, if you don't know it, it's a grade 2 listed building. It's really stunning, but you can obviously imagine, even if it were just a general place, upkeep would be a certain amount. You can just imagine how that will triple, quadruple, whatever, if you're looking at a really old building. I suppose it's particularly sad for me personally because it was co-founded by one of my Quaker heroes, John Wilhelm Rowntree, along with George Cadbury, and so this was in the early 1900s, and so it's lasted such a long time. It's been such a bulwark, I think, of British Quakerism, and that it's closing does mean again that we're kind of going into uncharted territory as Quakers, and that's really exciting, but also I can understand why certain people are unsure as to how that's going to look. But it seems like they are still going to have a physical presence, but they're going to be moving around, which will hopefully be good because that'll mean that it's a lot more geographically inclusive. So the reason why I've never been able to go there is because I'm nowhere near Birmingham. But if they're doing these Woodbrook places and they're hiring out places, that would mean that they can go where the people are, which I think is really good, and the online courses as well. But I do understand that, and I think I haven't done any online courses either. And I think the main reason is that I would probably like to do it communally in a community, and you can only do that obviously in person. So, but hopefully this way it'll be more accessible. So I think it is a good thing, though it does come with a bittersweet farewell to that building. In terms of Quake It Up and the channel, I think that 2023. I mean, I did start it in 2022, but then I moved and it was all a bit hectic, and so 2022 didn't really see too many videos. So it wasn't until probably this time last year that I really started going really, and I've just been really I've really loved doing it. I've been really loved putting videos out and sharing my interests and my faith with you guys. And I hope it's been helpful. It's been really good. I am now over 500 subscribers, which is absolutely crazy. And I'm interested to see where that goes. But I mean, I'm doing it mainly just because this is something which I think I'd like to put out there. And so I want to say thank you for those of you who are subscribing. If there's anything that you want to see that, or if there's a direction you would like Quake It Up to take, which you don't think it's currently doing, let me know. I'm happy to take any advice and for future videos and so on. But I think 2023 in terms of Quake It Up has been really positive, and it's nice to see that people have been engaging, and it's been lovely to have guests on. I'm hoping that in 2024 more guests will get to come on as well. I'd like to say obviously big thank you to Mark Russ and Ben Wood for having such long chats with me and letting me use their videos throughout the year to get people to buy their books because they're amazing, and also to spread talking about Quakerism. In preparation for this video as well, I also asked the Quaker Hive Mind of Twitter and Discord what they think were the Quaker highlights of 2023 for those. And they weren't at all what I thought they were going to be. And it was really nice, actually, because it wasn't what I was expecting it to be, but in a really good way. They were all really, really local or personal things. So, we had people talking about highlights as to, they managed to get the heating sorted in their meeting house, or they've managed to get the attendance of their meeting back to sort of pre-COVID levels, which is, really great and really important. Or, this was the year when they finally became an official member of the Religious Society of Friends, and all these, absolutely true. And I think there's lots of, little stories. I mean, I'm looking at like the national or international highlights or whatever. But the fact is that for many people, for most of the year, the Quaker life that they live is focused around their meeting, and that's how it should be. And so, hearing things that, well done for getting the heating right. That's great. Well done for getting people back in after COVID. I think just building that community and making it a nice warm place, both physically and spiritually as well. So I think that's really nice. So it's been quite a year in 2023. I think from a Quaker perspective, I didn't think I'd be talking about this for as long as I have been, but I'm very excited to see where 2024 is going to go. What's going to be the new Quaker thing in 2024? Rest assured, I will be talking about it. I'm sure there'll be new books. I'm hoping there'll be new guests on the show. I'm hoping that there'll be a lot more presence in the wider society of Quakers standing up for testimonies and looking at trying to improve, especially truth and peace as we go into 2024. I wish you all the best for the new year. I hope you enjoy celebrations if you do celebrate, and if not, get an early night in and let the other people do what they have to do. And I will see you in 2024 for hopefully lots of exciting new videos and discussions about Quakerism. See you then. Thank you very much for watching the video. If you liked it, please do click on the thumbs up and the subscribe button to get more videos about Quakerism in the UK today. It really does help, and thanks once again.